video covers paragraph structure, and it does so by looking at an essay from the writer Amy Tan. Amy Tan is a very skilled writer, and she uses really good paragraph technique, and I want to talk about a couple of things she does that you should try to incorporate into your own writing. The essay is titled Mother Tongue, and it's an expertly crafted essay. It's really well done. Now, I want to look at the third paragraph and talk about how Amy Tan begins it. So these first couple of paragraphs are just sort of preliminary warm-up paragraphs. She's sort of giving you an indication of what she's going to write about in this narrative. When we get to the third paragraph, I want to just look at her opening sentence. It reads, "Recently, I was made keenly aware of the different Englishes I do use." I'll just stop right there and consider what that sentence accomplishes. It helps you understand that she's about to explain a situation that made her more aware of her English. I don't know what the situation is yet because I haven't read the rest of the paragraph, but I'm mentally primed to understand that that's what she's about to do. She's about to explain some situation that made her more aware of the English that she uses. And that situation that she does describe is a moment when she's giving a speech to an audience and her mother is in the audience, and it just sounds a little strange because her mother is there. If we look at the next paragraph, scroll up a little bit to this next page. Just last week, I was walking down the street with my mother, and I again found myself conscious of the English I was using, the English I do use with her. And this, yet again, is sort of priming the reader for what is going to come next. She's helping you understand the direction that the paragraph is about to take. This technique that she is using is called a topic sentence. You should think of a topic sentence as something that gets the reader ready for the next paragraph. It allows the reader to make a mental shift so the reader knows what's coming up next. The goal is to never surprise or disorient the reader with stuff that seems to come out of nowhere, and topic sentences allow you to avoid that. They allow you to help orient the reader and to help the reader understand what the essay is going to do next. Another thing that I want to point out is this little word "again" and what function that has in this essay. That is a reference back to the previous paragraph, and that has a specific name, the technique of putting in that little reference backwards. It is called a transition. Those little phrases like "again" or "as well" or starting a sentence with "this," or signal words such as "moreover," "likewise," "in contrast," "however." These words help the reader understand not only what's coming up in the next sentence, but also how it relates to the previous idea. They build more of a sense of connectedness, and you should try to use them somewhat regularly in your writing. So we get this little break in the essay, sort of signaling that she's about to move on to some new theme. And the very opening sentence here, "Lately, I've been giving more thought to the kind of English my mother speaks." And she goes on to talk about these different ways that people refer to the English, like broken and limited English, and she doesn't like those very much. I want to pick up this very last sentence, "but they seem just as bad as if everything is limited, including people's perceptions of the limited English speaker." I know this for a fact because when I was growing up, my mother's limited English limited my perception of her. And that is Amy Tan setting up a paragraph that is going to talk about how she was ashamed of her mother's English and how she was often embarrassed by her mother. Please just notice the structure here. When we get this little beginning phrase, "I know this for a fact," that's my transition, or it's Amy Tan's transition. It allows us to make a mental linkage backwards, and then the rest of this sentence, where she talks about growing up, that's Amy Tan helping you understand what the next phase in the essay is going to be. You can point to almost every paragraph in this essay and see this feature. She is almost always giving you a topic sentence that kind of says, here's the next idea that's going to come up, and then she expands on it. There are exceptions, and one of them comes with this scene that we're looking at the bottom of this page and then onto the top of the next page, where she is translating on the phone to a stockbroker. She's translating for her mother to a stockbroker. And here we don't see the topic sentence. It's just a continuation of the action, and it talks about Amy Tan, talking on the phone and being embarrassed and her mother yelling over her shoulder and so forth. And there's not really many topic sentences right here because it's just a series of actions. One action kind of leads to the next. When I get down to this next paragraph, after the stockbroker scene, first sentence, "We used a similar routine just 5 days ago for a situation that was far less humorous." And this is a scene in which she talks about the hospital losing a CAT scan of her mother because her mother has a brain tumor. All I want to point out about this is the function of the sentence. We used a similar routine just 5 days ago for a situation that was far less humorous. That is mentally priming the reader. It's an acknowledgement that we just barely went through kind of a funny, lighthearted scene with the stockbroker. Now we're about to get into a more serious issue, and she's helping you understand what's coming next. It's called a topic sentence, and it is a really useful technique. It is one of the key parts of writing well. You want to try to continuously orient the reader as to what is going to happen next. Give the reader a hint, and the way you give that hint is your very first sentence of a paragraph sort of indicates what's coming up next. Please try to do this in your writing. It is not necessary for every single paragraph, but more often than not, it's helpful and necessary. So try to incorporate that. Amy Tan's a good writer. Try to do what Amy Tan does.